Hello, everybody. I think we will begin our webinar series. My name is Delia Valles Rosales from Texas A&M University at Kingsville, and I am with the NSF HSI STEM Resource Hub. I co-host this webinar series along with Dr. Marta Desmond from New Mexico State University. I would like to welcome you to our second webinar of the fall 2023 webinar series, focused on celebrating and learning from successful NSF HSI awardees. Today's topic is incorporating culturally responsive teaching practices in the classroom. A little bit of housekeeping. This webinar will last 1 hour. Today's webinar has 2 speakers, and we anticipate from 15 to 20 minutes for questions at the end of the presentations. For questions related to today's topic, please use the Q&A box. And for questions related to Zoom or any other technical questions, please use the chat box. Dr. Marta Desmond and I will be curating the questions at the end of the 2 presentations. We might not have enough time for to answer all of the questions, but in case we go over the time, we might just post the questions in our portal. We highly recommend you to check our portal and to become a member of the Hub, and we will be posting the link in the chat room to join the Hub. We always ask for your help to please answer a survey. We will be posting the link to the survey in the chat room and also a QR for you to easily access the survey. We really need your feedback from this webinar, and also it is important to collect data for NSF reporting activities and also to measure our program outcomes. And we will be posting the link to again to the survey in the chat room. An announcement, an extra announcement, a different announcement is related to the following. We invite everybody to come. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Something happened in here.
What Delia was going to announce is that we do have a AI workshop that's coming up, and we're going to post a link to that in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and announce our 2 speakers for today and introduce our 2 speakers for today, and then we'll go on with the webinar. So first, Dr. Jessica Black earned her bachelor's degree in geology at Wellesley College and a Bachelor of Science in Geography at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. She then completed her master's degree in quaternary science at the University of Maine in Orono, followed by her PhD in geological sciences at the University of Colorado in Boulder. In her professional career, Dr. Black has focused her efforts towards the overall goal of supporting diverse undergraduate students in STEM to completion of their degrees so they can transition to graduate programs, ultimately diversifying the professional workforce and strengthening tribal natural resource departments with skilled Indigenous candidates. Dr. Black is the program director of Heritage University Chapter of Environmentors Program, and which is a program that's sponsored an after-school intensive high school environmental science research mentorship program at White Swan High School, where greater than 50% of the participants are Native American and greater than 25% are Hispanic, and at Yakima Nation Tribal School. Dr. Black is the project director for the USDA NSF HSI education grant to increase diversity in students pursuing agriculturally related fields in undergraduate degree programs. Dr. Lizette Delgado Cruzata is Associate Professor of Molecular Biology in the Department of Sciences. She earned her master's degree in public health and PhD at Columbia University and her undergraduate degree at the University of Havana in Cuba. She started as a basic molecular biologist carrying out genetic research in yeast, but found that she could apply her skills to population studies, integrating her molecular biology expertise to the understanding of disease, etiology, and progression. She is a molecular epidemiologist who studies chronic diseases and carries out molecular epidemiology studies investigating lifestyle and behavioral factor, epigenetic markers, I'm sorry. She is also interested in associations of these biomarkers with lifestyle and behavioral factors. Her current research explores epigenetic markers in minority populations with the goal of decreasing health disparities. She conducts this work in the US and Brazilian populations and projects funded by NIH and Fulbright. In both projects, she investigates the relationship between breast cancer mortality, DNA methylation, and ancestry. Her teaching expands the undergraduate and graduate curriculum in the biological sciences. She has developed a new course on race and science that explores the sociological and biological aspects of race. This course will be co-taught by Dr. Delgado Cruzada and Dr. Adams from Africana Studies. She also developed and teaches cell and molecular biology. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar today. And I would like to welcome Dr. Delgado Cruzada to begin the webinar. Thank you so very much.
Hello, everyone. So I will be starting this webinar, and this is part of a project that we have at the City University of New York, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, NSF funded grant whose title is Including Others in the Teaching and Practice of STEM Disciplines. And I would like to start with just the general introduction on why this topic is relevant. And many of you are probably very familiar with this data that I'm going to present in my introductory slides. I think it's always important to remember why we're doing this kind of work. And the first one deals with the shift that it is projected for the US population in the coming years, and that we're actually experiencing already, in which, we are going to end up having more ethnically diverse classrooms than we had in the past. And this is relevant because what we do not see is a similar trend in the workforce, right? So while our population is becoming more and more diverse, we are still lagging on the numbers of those from similar groups, Latinos and African Americans and Native Americans, and their numbers in the actual STEM workforce. This graph from basically this past year, it's like 2 years old, it shows the data on how we have the total workforce divided by race, ethnicity, the non-STEM workforce, the STEM workforce, and then divided by whether they have degrees or done in the workforce. And you can see on the right side, the last two bars are the ones, and I included there the percentages just to give you an idea how much more or how many more Latinos and African Americans are actually in the workforce, but those that do not have bachelor degrees, and how their numbers actually shrink quite a lot when we're looking at those that are in the workforce that have these bachelor degrees. If we go a little bit more in depth in the workforce distribution by race, ethnicity, then we can see these numbers again, but now how they are kind of broken down in the different areas of STEM. So here are health-related, life sciences, math, computer sciences, physical sciences, and engineering. And we can see that except so the overall the overall distribution is more or less mirroring what we find in the health-related sciences. So, but this is not the case for other areas. And this is important to acknowledge and keep in mind that even for when we're looking at the overall workforce, we have a further, when we do a further breakdown by topic or what area of interest, then we see actually decreasing numbers of Latinos and African-American professionals in those specific areas. So not only the numbers are decreased from all jobs, but then when we go into the specific areas, the numbers are further decreased and smaller. These starts actually back in our institutions, in colleges and university across the country, where we find, you know, that the numbers of graduates actually from these groups is smaller than from other groups. And here is a breakdown of graduation, 4, 5, and 6-year graduation. And while some of the groups are making some progress, Latinos actually were making progress right up to the pandemic. And after the pandemic, there is a big concern that these numbers won't hold up. We can see that African Americans and Native Americans numbers are actually still very low in terms of how many are graduating from college, and we would, you know, I also like to talk about, you know, what is the case, what is it that is impacting those that are not graduating, right? So the reasons behind its disparity are not, there's just no one specific one. It's a combination of a lot of factors. Some are historical, economic, and cultural. There is research that highlights exclusion messages that those entering college receive, whether they should or not graduate from STEM careers. Some of these messages are direct, active discrimination, or indirect. Messages that show that there is not enough role models. You know, there's messages about the differential ability, the belief that, you know, some people are very suited for some careers while others aren't. And it's, you know, those entering college receive this information and act on it, right? Students from these underrepresented racial and ethnic groups have report often that they feel they don't belong into these disciplines, lower sense of belonging, and this makes them in some way also decide to go to areas where they feel that they actually belong, and they feel more connected to the topics that they learn there. They also experience a stereotype threat and social pressures. And this is particularly important when we're thinking about the intersection of race and gender. And women from these groups even feel a bigger pressure that they shouldn't sometimes be studying in these disciplines. I like to always highlight the advantages of increasing diversity, because it's not only that diversity is just and ethical, but it's also the fact that diverse groups are more productive and innovative. Data points to that. They have higher technological performance. They use diversified methods and approaches when they're tackling a problem, and they have more impact in society. And this has been researched a lot, and there is the discussion about why is this the case, and the concept of cognitive diversity has come out because basically, though, when we are in a room working with people that have multiple experiences and perspective, then that all that diversity in the way we think about things and we explore things actually is the one that impacts our ability to produce knowledge that is more impactful and actually more cited and more relevant. So, so I like to always highlight that our work in promoting the graduation of people from independent of the race, ethnicity, gender, and so on is quite important also because it will end up making better science for everyone. When we think about the sciences, the physical and biological sciences, we find that there is a lot of there are a lot of challenges when we try to incorporate inclusive practices and inclusive pedagogies within. And I like to acknowledge that because it is important also to think about how do we support our faculty members when they are when they're trying to do this work. And it's important to consider that in comparison maybe to other areas of knowledge or learning, science courses, physical and biological science courses are very high content courses, right? These disciplines in general. And that faculty run into the issues of having difficulty finding, for instance, the scholars of diverse backgrounds to do work, or they find that when they are doing introductory courses, they have difficulty including, you know, other voices that are not the traditional ones that they were taught at the time they studied these materials. They also struggle with time constraints and the, you know, the high content volume of these courses when trying to implement new pedagogical approaches. And this needs to be acknowledged if we actually want that professional development within these areas is successful. So with that in mind, we propose to actually create activities and materials for the science classroom that were driven by a DEI lens. We are actually only on our second year of this project. The project started last year. We did our training. Here is basically the structure of our first year of work under this funded grant. We had 12 faculty members join this cohort. They're in chemistry, biology, organic chemistry, physics, biochemistry, toxicology, and instrumental analysis. So we have a wide range of disciplines present in our cohort. This is kind of the timeline of our first year of training. We did not want to overburden the faculty with, a lot of meetings and tasks. So we took on the approach of discussing and bringing to them the principles of racial equity and DEI work, and then try to understand what were the needs of our particular student population and how we could address that. We created this, the faculty were put together in teams so they could discuss together activities, the potential activities they would develop and implement in their courses. And we are in the midst of doing that work at the present. So how did we go about that? And I just wanted to share with you kind of what are the tools that we're using for this. We took it from the perspective for promoting student engagement. And we thought of these activities as activities that could have intrinsic value, that would be collaborative, right, that would be guided by a scaffolded instruction, that could assess, right, what the students were actually maybe learning, or they could demonstrate their understanding. We thought of technology would be important, and they felt that these technologically savvy students felt comfortable using technology. And we thought it was important to always consider that, that they could solve or approach some real world problems, because these ones promote engagement in the students. So what I'm going to share with you is what we have been using to guide us in this process. These are not actually yet our generated activities, but the things that we're thinking about when we are doing so. Some of the data that guide us came from the initial implementation of similar work. And these are basically just two examples. In general, what has been found is that the student engagement increases, their social, cognitive, and emotional engagement increases when the students are asked to basically engage themselves and give feedback to their instructors or their peer in the design of course activities. Right. So we thought this was important for us to know because it gave us a little push in thinking about how to go about that. In terms of how on the overall goal, we thought about using these cultural experiences by incorporating specific experiences of the students within the activities, considering their background, cultural and ethnic, in lab exercises, for instance. And something that has been used in the past, and we wanted to start there, but take it further, where specifically what are the scientist spotlight assignments that always are, you know, kind of inspiring to students to see how others do science, who are these people, and what are their accomplishments and life experiences. So this is work that has already been published from other groups and that we're using, you know, as template to build from. This is an example. All the references are in the slides, and I will be happy to share with you. But some of these talk about how within a chemistry classroom, it could be, we could implement basically culturally relevant activities by bringing in the experiences of students into the actual classroom. In this particular case, it was about talking about those that practice chemistry in the, you know, in the professional world, and that share in this case, this work was implemented at a Black college, Black women's college. So go out there and then check out what other Black scientists are doing, Black women scientists are doing. And when we're thinking about lab, thinking about how to explore further, how is it that chemicals that we use in labs that are, you know, could be traditionally used also have been have other similar chemicals, or in the communities that we live, what is it that people use that has more roots in their history and culture? Similar, the implementation of using, you know, specific plants that are region specific. They could be from Central America, they could be from other parts of the world, depending on who are our students, that could actually give them an idea of, you know, a connection, create a connection between them and these materials they're using in the classroom. And finally, that is spotlight assignment that, you know, many of you might be familiar with, in which either we can use a resource, I will have that an example in the next slide, but it can be created also by the, you know, the faculty or the students, where they can put together a list of scientists or a list of these scientists' accomplishments, and they can share with each other who are these scientists that they find that they relate the most to and why. And this work actually has been shown to increase sense of belonging and relatedness in students in more than one classroom. So I think it's very recommendable. And this is, for example, some of the resources that can be used to put together similar assignments. And you know, this is all I had to share with you. Again, we are at the beginning of our project, and we'll be happy to share any progress again in the future. Thank you.
Are you ready, Dr. Black?
Yep. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I just jump on in.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
All right. Share my screen. Oop. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure what's going on. We managed to start it at the beginning. Let's try that again. Oh, well, hello everyone. So we're in the year 5 of our NSF HSI grant, Culturally Responsive Education in STEM. So I'll present a little bit about what we've done, but then I'm also going to deviate a little bit into the theme of it, which is culturally responsive classroom practices, which is a little bit different than what we focused on. So just some background. So Heritage University, we're located on the ancestral lands of the Yakama Nation in South Central Washington State. Here we are down there. We're in a heavily rural region. So because of that, we have a lot of hops, apples, cherries, just a very rich and diverse set of crops that we
Jared? Are you there, Jared? Hello?
Delia, I think
Go ahead.
Dr. Black is frozen, so she might.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Hey. Let me, I can call her and see what happened.
She might have to,
No, she's back.
she's back.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
We've been having some interruptions today too.
Yeah, I don't. Are you guys
Mine too.
able to? I think I got to read.
Is it okay? Are you okay now?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's more. This one's not working. All right. Let me try this again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So our goal here is to recruit, retain, and support students to diversify the workforce and the professoriate. So I think that's like a lot of ours reworded, but more or less that's what we're aiming for. And just the summary of our objectives, again, increase the number of underrepresented students in STEM disciplines, improve the performance and retention. And we also wanted to increase the number who were going on to pursue graduate studies after completion of their degrees. This is a whole myriad over the last 4 and some years of the different activities that we did. And, you know, the summary, you know, tutoring, interventions, faculty development, tons of study groups, a lot of intensive tutoring, back again to that one. Most of these had a lot of one-on-one time with the students. A lot in the end, that's what happened with a lot of these. And so we've had 96 students enrolled in the program. And this semester we have another 25, maybe a little bit more. We have a cutoff onto the enrollment into the cohorts at midterms, which is next week. 100% of our students are either Hispanic or American Indian, Alaska Native, and or first generation. And about 65 of the students that we have are female and 34% male, and percent non-binary. Just to give you an idea of who we are. So some of our outcomes, we have a lot of regional partnerships. That was because we are small, we are rural, we are fairly isolated. We needed to build a model that was going to really bring together the strengths that we would need that we can't provide as a small institution. So we have a state land grant, Washington State University. They have a research station that's just down the road. It's about 40 minutes, which in the West is like literally down the road for us. It's pretty close. And over this period, we've had 13 of these graduate students that have provided tutoring and mentoring to our undergraduate students for at least one semester, because Heritage is almost entirely undergraduate. We've also had a lot of professional development that we've done with our partners. We worked with the Scala program. We've had 36 participants go through that, as well as a few other seminars that we ran. We've had a huge amount of research internships. Just in this last summer, for 1 year, 65% of our Crescent students participated in a paid summer research internship. Our students don't volunteer. And over the last 4 years, we've had 6 undergraduate national conference research awards from SACNAS, ACES, and the Murdoch Conference. Last year in ACES, our students got 2nd and 3rd place in the undergrad poster, and the year before, one of them won 1st place in the undergrad poster competition. And in terms of one of the goals we had here, one of the objectives for diversifying the professoriate, over the last 4 years, we've had 38 graduates, 18 accepted into post-undergraduate programs of those. So that's about 47%. And just this next year, we know that there's 14 students planning to graduate, and 9 of those students are applying for post-undergraduate programs, post-bacs, master's, and PhD programs. And on the right here, I just have a couple examples of some of our students. And the top one, Delia, she just contacted me because she wanted a little bit of help with her personal statement, because she's applying now in her program with an NSF GRFP application. So they tend to keep in touch with us once they move on. But completely shifting gears a little bit to sort of the theme of this seminar series about culturally responsive practices in the classroom, I thought I would give you a somewhat brief view of one of the things that we do in the environmental science program. I'm an environmental science and studies professor. And the classroom that I'm going to choose to look at, this is a field science. So one of our classrooms is very much in the field. And this is a program that I put together and that we've been running as an example of what can be done for culturally responsive programming. So the Sahaptin word for the Big River also translates into, or for the Columbia River, it translates into the Big River. And that is for the Pacific Northwest. That's the big one that comes around. And so this field class, the People of the Big River field class, it's designed to provide a tangible link between the pursuit of education in STEM fields and cultural revitalization and cultural identity development through the sustainable management of the lands that are so central to many Native American cultures. So what is it? It's 1,500 to 2,000 miles, depending on the year. It's 14 days that we're out there. We tend to go to a variety of different reservations around us because we want to meet with the natural resource managers in those locations. We also visit national forests, national monuments, state parks, fossil sites, because geologists like fossils. And the participants, we bring 10 to 12 university students. We also bring high school students from White Swan, primarily. If they come with us, we also bring the teachers, and we always have 2 to 3 faculty that form this roving caravan around the Pacific Northwest. Our class goals, scientific method, Western science integrated with TEK, traditional ecological knowledge. Intergenerational learning, we have from the high school students to the university students to the faculty, and then we also meet with quite a few elders from the different areas. Intercultural awareness, and strengthening of intertribal relationships are also things, as well as presentation of possible environmental career paths by experts in the field. Oops. So traditional ecological knowledge, it's definitely taken off here quite a bit. And it can overcome many barriers in STEM education. It's interdisciplinary, it centers Indigenous perspectives, and values relationships as a primary way of advancing education. It also recognizes culturally relevant instruction is critical for student engagement, particularly in the natural sciences. So I'm just going to go through a variety of photos here that just give you a glimpse of the different things that we do. We are in Warm Springs, Deschutes National Forest. The students have to do a day of reciprocity, so volunteering everywhere we go to thank them for hosting us. Nespers Fisheries, meeting with one of the elders from Nespers. Our accommodation, think of it as 5+. And so what skills are they learning? And this is in their own words: communication and data collection, dealing with difficult people, situation with facts, life skills, environmental skills, book skills, camping skills, quick note taking, strong, intense thinking while processing more incoming information. Some wildlife here, some fish shocking here, learning about wildlife over here. And of course, dry falls, which is one of the wonders of the world, I think. And then we asked them, what is a relationship to culture and the environment? It's now higher in the list of things that I value, stronger. I honestly haven't felt this much connection. It's a 2-week adventure. It strengthened my relationship with both. And the environment connects deeply to my sense of freedom. And we make them blog. There are a lot of self-reflections happening on this. And so again, this is just a very brief look at some of the analysis that we did of the students in their own words about this class. And the 3 research questions, which I won't have time to go through all of them, but just to give you an idea of what we were looking at. How does the People of the Big River field class impact students' sense of identity and development? How does the class help frame the importance of Indigenous community wisdom? How does the class impact students' professional development? So for the first part, the community building and cultural identity development, I do want to take a second and read a couple of these because it really does speak to what it means to do a culturally responsive class and curriculum in our area and with the demographics we have. And the examples I chose here, Heritage, as I showed, has a variety of different students from a variety of different cultures. So everything that we build has to really think about that, how to make an inclusive environment. So this is a student. We were at a powwow in Oregon. As we arrived to Wallowa, I was getting a bit nervous to attend my very first powwow. I have heard stories of racism by fellow classmates, and I did not want to be stared down because I was not Native American. I tried many foods that I've never had before. It tasted buffalo and elk. It's actually very good. I think I need to start giving more foods a chance. Once the friendship feast was over and we headed back to our camp to meet and talk with the Nespers tribal elder, Elmer Crow, and his wife, he mainly spoke about his history and about the cultural and scientific importance of these animals in our world. He really made me think. He told all of us to be educated in where we come from and how to introduce ourselves to a crowd with confidence. After, we enjoyed his company and got to enjoy the rest of the powwow. Overall, great day. So this blog entry is showing a common theme for many of the non-Native student participants. Many brought with them a knowledge of negative stereotypes, of people in our region, but also very limited personal experiences. It's in our area, a lot of people, brown is brown, and that is just not the case. There are many distinct cultures, and they don't always overlap, really, in student experiences. So this student, she started her first visit to a powwow with a lot of anxiety, and then she ended up with the words, "great day." So for many of the non-Native students, the class was the first experience with Native American culture, and it was provided safe spaces for them to inquire from their fellow students about cultural practices. Yeah, and that was one of the big ones. Many of our students were fearful of this trip initially, but during the journey, their posts really started to convey this newfound strength and confidence, and above all, an appreciation of the communities that we visited. Also, there's a critical entry highlighting the role of tribal elders that the students had with the students on the development of their cultural identities, and to celebrate and respect the diversity of all the cultures present. This is a theme we heard throughout all the elders that we visited with, celebrating all of the cultures. And much of the wisdom imparted by the elders cross cultural boundaries and were seen as universal truths by the students. And I'll do one more example. So this is another student with the Spokane tribe, which is in a very different region than where we were in the first one. We had stories told to us at sundown by the Spokane tribal members and by a few of the Heritage Clan. I, of course, shed some tears. I was finally to that point where I realized this trip is so worth it. I've not only learned information about wildlife fisheries restoration, the scientific aspect of the trip, but I gained more than any textbook or any length of a semester could have taught me. I have learned perseverance, respect, trust, and the ability to adjust to any environment situation that is thrown my way, which will actually help me in the real world when I'm on my own. And so the student is reflecting on this increasing recognition, the disparity between skill appraisal and student preparation. A lot of times students in STEM programs are often over-prepared in specific technical knowledge and skills, but under-prepared in the non-technical skills, such as self-awareness, relationship building, project management, adaptability. And I have to say, after COVID, I think this is even more exacerbated. It is the family atmosphere described here by the student that each of the tribal partners were able to create that was open to all students and inclusive of all cultures, that allowed the development of exactly the kind of non-technical skills that is most sought after by STEM professionals. All right, and to shift again a little bit, so we've had this program that has been running for some years now, and part of that, when I started People of the Big River, is recognizing that many of our students were limited in their ability to explore geographic boundaries. They hadn't actually traveled very far. And so by doing this, we were taking them around the inland Pacific Northwest to places that they'd never been before, and to removing a barrier in that way. So for me, this next step is to apply a lot of the same principles we use to build People of the Big River into an international experience. And so this is where I'm going now. So the International Culturally Responsive Curriculum. And so we are proposing a new program, we're calling it PIP, Programa de Investigación Indígena de Panamá. So it's a collaborative global framework to foster a diverse community of STEM scholars, particularly from Native American and Latinx communities, and prepare them for this global STEM workforce. We received a supplemental to our NSF grant for this next year, and it's to develop a very small pilot for we hope to be a 14-day experience in Panama, where there'll be 8 days of research at the Batipa field station, which is about where the red dot is. That will be with a mentor, as well as an Indigenous TK expert from Panama. We're hoping to create a global Indigenous exchange in this experience and really develop the cultural capital of the participants through cross-cultural and cross-institutional experiences. So it's actually pretty close to the Costa Rican border, which is right over here. And it's way over here. It's in this western part of Panama, which is actually the other end of where the Panama City is. So the Batipa Field Institute is located on the ancestral lands of the Nove Bugle, the largest of the indigenous groups, and it's on the Batipa Peninsula in Cherokee, and we have a longstanding partnership with them. You can see it's very close to the Mesoamerican Biological Corridor, and also an altitudinal corridor here. That's where Batipa is. So you see some of its stats over here, but it's a really nice area to bring students. And this is really driven by this, and we're seeing a growing number of folks focusing on this, of bringing equity to the study abroad experience, which has really been something that has been limited to those with means, and most of those study abroad experiences also don't necessarily, like a lot in Europe, for example, they're not really tailored to our student demographics, and they often require a lot of a pretty big outlay of funds, which is exclusive to many of our students. Many of them are also very long, which can be very difficult for our students to manage. So we want to expand the demographics of students who want to participate in the study abroad program, focus on decolonizing the experience by creating partnerships with host communities that are balanced and reciprocal, so the program models ethical practices. And we want these international experiences for Hispanic Indigenous students to foster so they can see their cultural navigation abilities as valuable. Their pre-existing strengths through familial, linguistic, and resistant capital can be reframed to enhance. So a lot of times when we bring students to Latin American countries, for example, such as Panama and Costa Rica, their ability to speak Spanish, the fact that they're university students, they're viewed with tremendous respect. And often it's a very empowering experience for them. So just, yeah, so briefly here, our summary is we want to, the takeaway from our HSI grant, I want a summary slide. There's really no substitute for one-on-one support and experiential learning. With all the stuff we've done, and we've done a variety of different things, it really comes back to how much we can provide our students with a lot of support, and not massive things, but really that intensive support. And for me, I'm looking at the next frontier, expanding geographic borders for our students and bringing equity to these programs. Oops. So thank you, everyone.
I want to just thank everyone for being persistent and putting up with all of our technical difficulties today. And thank you both, Dr. Black and Dr. Delgado Cruzada, for a fantastic webinar.